Hi, welcome to T-Minus Retirement, the podcast where we help launch your retirement into orbit. I'm Jay Cole.
And I'm Dustin Watts. We have a very special episode today where I found some of 2024's most influential quotes in the financial arena. And I thought it'd be a good time to kind of bring those to the viewers to discuss, because I think they're more relevant than ever. So I can't take credit for finding all these quotes. Meb Favor posted a really good compilation, so to speak, on LinkedIn, and some of them really stuck out to me. So we'll dive into it here. So the first one is, all past declines look like an opportunity, all future declines look like a risk. And that was by Morgan Housel. And that one really stood out to me because we deal with a lot of people, and it's always interesting when we're either in a decline, people don't see the opportunity, right? There's a lot of fear. So there's a lot of psychological things that are going on during times like that. But I think when we can take a step back and look at what has gone on in previous years, we should kind of condition ourselves. Anytime we do get these type of pullbacks, they are more of the opportunity. And when we get to all-time highs, we just have to remember that pullbacks are normal.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's the beginning of 2025, and we're a little bit off the all-time highs in the market. And if we just take a step back, we can go back to 2020, 2022, where the market did have declines. During that time, there was a lot of fear, but now that we've gotten past that and we're on the other side of that, we can really look and say, wow, what a great opportunity that would have been to put money to work. If you would have put money to work just at the bottom of 2020, now it's nearly impossible to time the bottom, but from then, March 23rd, 2020 to now, the market's up 162%. There was
big.
That's very big, and if you kind of look at it that way, you can condition yourself a little bit not to be so afraid of pullbacks in the market. Another thing I just wanted to mention, JP Morgan does a lot of great research. I have some stats here from them, but there are a lot of corrections throughout the years. The average is a 14% decline. Mm-hmm. And with that, the market on average is up 75% of the time, has a positive return. So if we can just kind of remember some of those stats in the back of our head when we do have these corrections, that they're normal, that they should be looked at as a buying opportunity, I think people will be able to condition themselves to be on the plus side of those events taking place.
Yeah, part of the problem is people just focusing too much on the news.
Yeah.
And if there's really no headlines, then they're going to try to make something as dramatic as maybe it isn't as dramatic.
Yeah.
And if there is a correction, let's just say it's a 5% correction, that's not really that big.
No.
It's very normal, but the news can make that seem like it's almost like the end of the world for the market, and you should get your money out.
Yeah, you have to know, I would say, what is more normal. And then once you are in those types of events, you can kind of understand it a little bit better and not be so fearful.
Yeah. The next quote here, this is from Ian Castle. Stocks rarely perform in the time frames we predict, and it's why the market only works for investors that have more patience than they thought they would ever need. It's kind of a funny quote.
Yeah.
A lot of people, especially if they're watching the news or they're on sites like Reddit and they see that people can make a ton of money on
get rich quick.
Yeah, get rich quick type things.
Yeah.
I think the most common one now is it's a commodity like Bitcoin or funds trading Bitcoin. They're thinking that they can just make it rich and make it big and that's it. Well, that's not really the case. Some people do make money in those short time frames, and that's good for them, but it's very speculative to do so. It's very akin to just letting it all ride at a Vegas casino.
Well, and I think that before you enter into any investment, really, you have to think about, okay, what is the purpose of me doing that? What is my time horizon? Yeah. Is this something that I want to, be something that I pull money from 10 years, 20 years, 30 years down the road, like retirement money? Am I just having some fun, involved in some things like you mentioned, like Bitcoin or what have you? It's very important, I think, to establish those timeframes at the beginning of entering those, because you can get into something and it not go the way you want it right off the bat, and that's just how investing works sometimes, or even trading.
Yeah, and identifying, okay, is this a fun little short-term trade? Those aren't necessarily bad, unless you're trading your whole portfolio. That's a different story. But if I kind of liken it to you go to a casino and you give yourself $100, and that's your trading money. If you lose it, then that's the end of it. But if you make something, then hey, that's a nice little plus. But you've designated that specific amount of money for, in this case, the casino. Kind of the same thing here. If your trading timeline, is a short term, just try to make a good trade, you should really designate what that amount should be and stick with that.
Yeah, you have to recognize it and execute on it and be done with it.
Yeah, exactly.
So the next quote here, I think this was pretty timely as well. In a rising market, enough of your bad ideas will pay off so that you'll never learn that you should have fewer ideas. That was Daniel Kahneman. And the reason I brought that one up, and it goes a little bit into like the meme stock mania, when we have markets that are really lifting all things, even speculative assets, you get this sense of overconfidence because you maybe put some money into something that did really well right out of the gate. And you just think, wow, that was easy. I'll just do that again and again and again and again. And, you won't have any downside to it. You get overconfident that is repeatable when it's not, typically.
Yeah, you wouldn't be surprised, as a tax advisor, the countless times I've had, this was really in 2020, 21, where I've seen 1099s, consolidated 1099s, and people made a ton of money on stocks like GameStop. And then that's next year, those same people came back and the 1099s had tens of thousands of just losses.
Yeah.
And they all told me the same thing. They thought they could do it because they did it once and ended up losing much more than what their profit was with that original stock.
Yeah. Well, I think a good rule of thumb is if you're going to trade some of your money, designate a small portion of that, have fun, whatever. No one's going to fault you for that. But the real bulk of your portfolio, you don't mess around with that. No. You don't risk that in meme stocks or meme coins.
And that's too, it's good too to not be in an echo chamber.
Yeah.
If you're just surrounding yourself with, I don't want to just say like-minded people, but if you're hearing the same advice on a particular website or a particular forum, it's probably good just to maybe seek the opposite, just to see what other people are saying and get a good all-around perspective on that.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to investing.
No, I think that's good advice, because you really have to check yourself sometimes. Sometimes when it's too easy, that's kind of the light bulb that should be going off of, like, hey, maybe I got a little lucky. Yeah. There's a little bit more luck than skill to it sometimes.
Yeah.
This last quote is just for fun, because I got a good chuckle out of this. So this is by John Kenneth Galbraith. The function of economic forecasting is to make astrology look respectable. And I laughed at that because there's an old saying, only weathermen or economists are wrong all the time and still get to keep their job. And I always get a laugh at that, because forecasting an economy, let alone a modern economy, I think is way harder than we give it credit for. Almost nobody, I would say, does it accurately. And for example, after 2022, we had rates go up. We had pretty much every economist that I really knew of was calling for a recession. We are now in 2025, and that recession never came. And on the flip side of that, now I don't know many economists that are calling for a recession. So who knows what that means? But I just think that there's so many complexities to modern economies that it's really a lot harder than when you maybe were in a manufacturing, industrial-based economy, and you had very basic supply and demand dynamics going on and labor dynamics. I think that might have been a little bit easier, but nowadays to do that is just so difficult. And it's a good reminder for all of us, just because we read an article, I was getting a lot of questions around what's going to happen with the dollar, and how that's going to relate to the economy, and what's going on with credit card debt and loans on people's 401ks and all sorts of stuff. And people, I'll just say regular people, thinking that we're, economists, that this one specific reason is going to cause, X or Y, I think is just something to really stay away from, because even though it might make logical sense, it's very hard to make that prediction and have that come true, and have it come true in the time frame that you think it's going to be. And really, if you're trying to trade around those things, I just think that's, a disaster. I just think, buy good companies and own them. Don't try to use your macroeconomic outlook and use that for trading. I don't even think hedge funds are all that successful in it consistently, maybe a few.
Yeah.
So we hope you enjoyed these quotes of 2024 and found it interesting. If you did, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Take care.